Here we go. And I will share the screen again. Okay. So let's move to the first item on our agenda, the General Evaluation Guidelines. Hey, using data in evaluation. These are things that surprisingly get overlooked when I'm reading through these evaluations. And last year I read 1,200 pages of evaluation over the winter. That's one reason why I don't do any site visits in the winter. I'm reading those evaluations. And drinking a lot of coffee. So anyway, double check your data. You know, we've got some things where there was math errors and percentages that were obviously incorrect. Explain your data sets. If you've got a chart or graphic, make sure you have a caption and some explanation about what this data means. You know, sometimes we just get a chart and it doesn't have anything in there. And also comments. Make sure that you have your evaluator comments in each section. And if a goal was not met, explain why. Use of pictures. Last year, this guidance in the department came out in the fall. You have to send us a picture of kids engaged in order for us to use it. So if you send us a bunch of kids standing there, nice pose, we cannot use that. So unfortunately, you want to make sure you're capturing the following: student engagement, participation, satisfaction, social emotional learning, or showing us some of the different activities that they've done. And then we'll be good. Here's an example of something you can do. If your program goes beyond the statutory requirement to serve a snack and you offer kids a full meal, throw in a picture of the kids enjoying that full meal is certainly going to be helpful. Okay, where to find evaluation support. This is the URL for the department website, and then you have to scroll down to the section that says Evaluation and Professional Development Support. I've indicated with a red box which ones are the ones for evaluators. It's the timeline and the local evaluation form. A couple years ago, we used to have a separate instructions, but we just put them right into the form and the instructions are in red. Make it a little easier. You only have one document. Okay, this is that timeline. And you can see it starts when data should be, the collection should begin, and that's, you know, April and May. And then in June and July, you should be churning through the numbers of any assessment data. Now, with this program, you are not limited to the state assessment. You can use a local assessment, especially now when they didn't have a state assessment, but maybe there was a local one that you were able to deliver to kids. You can use that in your evaluation. One difference with this program is we're very open to a lot of different data that you can use to show progress. Okay, in September, which is right now, you can send me the evaluation. So if you've got it done and you want to send it to me tomorrow, that's great. But most people don't send them until the end of November, closer to the due date. And the evaluations are due on November 30th of each year. If you need an extension, send me an email to request the extension and you'll get a 30-day extension And then December through January is when I will be reviewing the evaluations. And then somewhere between February and March, we try to get the state evaluation posted on the EOE website. Then usually when we have our impact conference, we will be sharing that information. And we've changed our impact conference to the fall starting this year. We'll see how it works out. And we'll be looking at this year's evaluation with directors. So this year, send your Word copy of your evaluation to me via email. And down at the bottom, there's the federal requirements that we need to conduct an evaluation, and then that the evaluation must be made public. And you know, I've been telling you guys this for a while, and it came out in ESSA. So I like to try to keep you guys posted ahead of time of changes in the program. Okay, the local evaluation, it's called the form now, but it's the template that you've used for a while. There are a few changes, and you simply enter the APR data, and that will be provided to you by the program. And then you can add pictures, charts, and anecdotal data. This year, because of the pandemic, what we're going to see is a lot more anecdotal data. And even in the federal reporting system, there are boxes where you can write in how the pandemic affected you and your program, and asking also for more anecdotal data. Because we do have data about the program and about its effect on the children, we just may not have as much assessment data this year as we would normally have. So write your narrative and then also write suggestions for improvement. When you get the form, make sure you save it right away with the grantee's name and the date. So in the example, New London, Iowa, and the date. And that just helps us to keep track rather than us getting the form back in with the same name. Okay, now we're going to go through the form section by section so that you can get a good overview of what's in the form. And we've got, as an aid for you, a little checkbox section so that you can check off as you complete each of those sections. So then there's some basic information on the form about the grantee and also about the evaluator. And then information about the centers. And then you're going to write a summary about the local program, providing an overview of some of the program's main goals, serving children, and some of the other things that make your program unique. You'll talk about the key people involved, some of the activities, the location of the centers, and attendance and governance. And each section has a box that you can copy and paste or type in, and those boxes will get larger for as much information that you need. Okay, the next section, demographic data. And this is where you're going to begin with attendance tables. So you're going to enter the data in the various fields. And there's a separate table for summer data compared with regular school year data. So here's the example of the summary attendance data and the school attendance ethnicity table. So you should have all of that information, and the program should be able to provide you with that information on a regular basis to help you do this. We've got a section for attendance for kids with special needs. We've got, there's a summer attendance on there, and you divide it up between males and females, and this is just some good background data that will go into your evaluation, and also as you're reporting it to the feds in the APR. So this section is very important, a discussion of attendance, okay? The percentage of 21st century attendance compared to the total population, the percentage that are free and reduced lunch, the efforts to increase and keep attendance high, and recruitment efforts. Attendance is a very important section of the grant, so hopefully you'll have some very relevant comments to put in there. Okay, now attendance is a high stakes area of this grant. In the initial application, programs provide to us the number of kids they want to serve, and their funding is based on that. So programs need to meet 70% by the first year and then 80% by year 3. And in Iowa, we're very generous. A lot of states go to 100% of what your attendance was on that application. But because we're working with at-risk children and children that have chronic attendance issues, I didn't think that that was a reasonable measure for us. And so we were approved to go with 70 and 80%. So the bad part is we have to monitor that attendance, and when the funding does not meet those goals, I am required to reduce in the next contract year the amount of funding for a school that didn't meet their attendance goals. So hopefully as an evaluator you can identify that early, and we can take some steps for remediation so that we don't have to reduce any of the program's funding. Okay, the next part is reporting on partners. Partners in Iowa are very important. In Iowa, we have more partners than any other state in the nation. We have almost 800 community partners. Texas has about 120. South Dakota has about 10. So, we are able to serve a lot more kids, able to provide more field trips, more experiences for them, and give them a much better quality program because of community partners. So this is why it's included, and it's very important for us. And plus it's included in the federal statute. Okay, when you're reporting about partners, we ask that you discuss the type of partners, the services they provide, and efforts that are made to recruit new partners. Okay, the number, and then we're going to talk about parent involvement. We also have a guide to parent engagement that if somebody is having some issues with parent engagement, they might want to check out that guide. And also they may want to participate in the parent engagement committee. That'll help them work with a network of peers to help them improve with their parent engagement. But anyway, you're going to report the data on parent engagement and put it in this section. Okay, the part that everybody's been waiting for, the Government Performance and Results Act measures, called the GEPRA. And right now there's 14. We're in discussion to reduce those down to 7, and that'll happen in the next couple of years. So just a little bit of advance information on that. So they're asking you what assessment tools you used for the measures and the date that you entered the different measures. And there are right now 14 GEPRA measures, and we're going to go through them point by point. But first, let me share this about the GEPRA and evaluation. With the ESSA, we are now required as a state to use your local evaluation as a tool in the comprehensive visit that the state does to recommend ongoing funding. So here is the quote in the federal guidance. So that's why it behooves you to have a thorough evaluation with comments in every single section, because this is going to be used to evaluate whether the program will continue or not because of federal statute. Okay, the first GEPRA measures 1 through 5 are for improvement in math. Okay, so the GEPRA has a couple of things that they focus on in academics. One part is improvement or growth. The other part is proficiency. So these first measures are improvement. And you may only have an elementary program, and so then you'd only do measure number 1. But if you have middle school, you would then do only number 2. And then number 3 is the number of all the regular participants who improved, adding them all up, because some programs may have both elementary and middle or even high school. Okay, the second area of growth is English, and that's measures 4 through 6, where we look at improvement in English. And it can be language arts or reading. These GEPRA measures are a few years old, and so, you know, language arts is the equivalent of English. Once again, you're looking at whether or not they were elementary in measure 4 and measure 5 for middle school, high school. Okay, there are 3 measures of growth in the APR system. And this is a screenshot to show you what I have checked off that we can use in the APR to report data. Normally we would just use the state assessment data, but given the pandemic, we need to get this data in showing growth any way possible. So you can use any assessment if you have one. If you don't have an assessment, and you can show growth by the grades. A student passed from grade 2 to grade 3. Well, that's showing growth. You can also use teacher reported data. We have a teacher survey. You can use that. We want to give you every chance possible to put data in that shows that our programs are valuable for students. And you know, Congress is going to be looking at this data because they need to refund our program this month. So it's very important that we get this into the system. That's another reason why there were 2 windows in the APR system, because Some folks had some data, and if Congress is meeting now, they're going to be asking for whatever data is in the system. So hopefully I'm giving you some good background. Okay, we're going to take questions at the end, and so hopefully you don't forget a question. All right, GEPR measures 7 and 8. Now we're dealing with proficiency, and that's, a harder measure sometimes for at-risk children to attain. They may be 3 grades behind, and in 1 year, because of this program, they may have jumped up 2 grades, but they still didn't reach proficiency, and you, as a result, could not count them. So I think in the future, proficiency is not going to have the prominence that it does when we revise those GEPR measures. We're going to be more focused on student growth in academics. However, they're there now, and you want to do your best to report them. Okay, homework and class participation, measures 9 through 11. We're going to need to know what you used to get this information, and then report, based on elementary, middle school, and then finally all your regular participants. And then again, 12 through 14 is student behavior. And again, elementary students, middle school students, and here's a data collection tip. Every building principal in the student information system has a list of the number of referrals. Each referral is teacher reported, and the principal can provide you with hard data rather than just, a teacher's casual survey with the number of referrals for students in the program. We don't need individual personal information. All we need is there were 60 students in the program, and on those 60 students from last year to this year, their referrals dropped, say, 45% because of, they were in the program and their attendance improved. And so we have that data available. You just have to ask the principal. So I think that in the future, the revised GEPR will be asking for that principal data rather than just doing a survey. But either one is okay. I'm just trying to improve the quality of the data measure we're using. And when I go do a visit, I talk to the principal about it as well. Okay, GEPR measures discussion. And we'll ask you, did the program improve? And explain factors that contributed to the GEPR data. Okay, now we're going to hit the local objectives section. So the GEPR is what we require, and then because that's consistent, everybody does the same, and then we have the local objectives, and those can vary from program to program. So you want to make sure that your objective is measurable and that the objectives are tied to the original application, but if they can be modified, the state just has to approve them. So, and these are the things that you need to report on as an evaluator on a local objective. Was the objective met? Was it not met, but progress was made? Did they not meet it and no progress was made? And unable to measure. Well, I hate seeing that last one, unable to measure. If you can't measure it, why is it even in there in the first place? That just makes the program look bad. So keep that in mind. Okay, so provide a detailed discussion of your local objectives. And then the next thing you're going to do is write some anecdotal data. You may have some data that you talked with parents at a parent meeting, and the parents shared with you how important the program was for them, as Iowa has one of the highest percentages in the nation of both parents working. And so this program provides a safe place for the children while the parents are at work. Okay, write a narrative about student success stories as related by a teacher, staff, community member, community partner, or a parent. It's amazing how many life-changing experiences these kids have because all of a sudden they were successful in something. They, in our programs, a lot of times for the first time, the child feels somebody cares about them. And it has amazing results. And it's important to try to document that as much as possible. And it's anecdotal, but it's very powerful. Write a narrative about the program best practices. I mean, are they using a new literacy program? Are they doing something for social emotional learning? Providing a full meal? Things that, you know, they're doing that are exceptional and are making the program a success. Sometimes I go on a site visit and I see a lot of great things, and then I look at the evaluation and I think, well, there's stuff missing in here, and it's usually these best practices. Okay, and this is the section where you would put your pictures in, but we already covered that in the general guidelines. So then we're going to have input from a student, teacher, parent, or other stakeholders here. And this is a little bit different. This is just, you know, their remarks about the program. And then we're going to do a narration about program sustainability. That's a statutory requirement. And so we've got a lot of things in place to have programs report on sustainability. And the biggest thing that's going to help these programs sustain themselves is community partners. In fact, that's even the name. You know, 21st century community learning centers. And community should be capital and bold because it's such an integral part of us to be viable for the future. Then you're going to write a narrative and a summary of the program, and you're going to list accomplishments of the program for the past year. Then you're going to provide the URL or the web address where the evaluation is going to be posted. This is a statutory requirement, and we've been in Iowa requiring this for years because we knew it was coming. So that's just something that we need to have because we have to share that. Okay, and then write a narrative with your recommendations at the end. What do you think the program needs to improve? Do they have some issues with data collection? Do they have some issues with attendance? This is why we have evaluation, so that the programs can see where and how they can improve. And then a little bit about the program future plans for change. And I've included a bonus section this year, a narrative about the impact the pandemic had on the program and the children being served. This kind of mirrors what was in the APR. And if you wrote something in the APR, the programs can take what they put in there and give it to you, and you can put exactly the same thing. Or you can be a little bit more elaborate here, because our box will expand and the box in the APR will not expand. Okay, now we're going to go into the question section. I'll leave this up for another second so you can get my contact information, but it's readily available. All right, I'm going to stop the share. And I'm going to stop the recording.